My name is Councillor Samata Katul. I'm the Mayor of Camden. Welcome to this meeting of the Council, which is going out live on the webcast. Everyone in the chamber must use their microphone when they speak so that people watching the webcast can hear them. Please speak clearly into the microphone and switch it off when you have finished speaking. We are not expecting any fire alarms this evening, but if the alarm sounds, please leave the building by the nearest fire exit. If you need any help leaving, then please let a member of the staff know. The assembly point is on the Big Borough Street outside the Open Ridge building. I would like the borough solicitors to say a few words about the proceedings tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to just, with your leave, just mention three things. The first thing is that the Mayor received 3 requests for deputations for this meeting. As members are aware, she's accepted 2, one from Camden Unison retired members and one from the Camden Palestine Solidarity Campaign. She declined to accept a 3rd from the Camden Friends of Palestine on the grounds that it did not relate to our council functions, and she had already accepted 2 similar, certainly dealing with similar issues from earlier received deputations. We did take considerable care in writing to the organisation, explaining in detail, I think on Thursday last week, why their deputation was not accepted. Members are also aware that the Mayor, after advice from myself, has decided to exclude the public from the gallery. Members will recall that our last 2 meetings were interrupted and disturbed. There was a disturbance, and both meetings required an extension for us to get through some of the business that we needed to get through. We had no reason to believe that we would not have been again disrupted this evening. As always, the press were invited to be here and are here, and we are live streaming straight to the internet with the meeting also being recorded. The final thing just to mention is, if it is necessary, the Mayor may call for a short adjournment after the deputations is finished, but of course she will signal this to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, if I may. Madam Mayor, I've given careful thought after the last meeting to how this should be approached, as many members will have done. And I'm very conscious that whereas in the past, protesters have sought to shout down democratic debate, what they did on the last occasion, and presumably on this had they been allowed, was hold up pieces of paper. I should say I disagree with the platform of the protesters as much, probably more profoundly than anybody else in this room. But against the background of 60,000 plus having died across the region, to say that people should not be able to hold up a piece of paper in silence is simply appalling. And on behalf of my group, we say that that decision is wrong.
Yeah.
Mayor, thank you. If I may, on your behalf, the decision, of course, you're referring to is the decision at the last meeting rather than the decision tonight. So it seems to me that these, may I finish? It seems to me that these are very difficult decisions to make, and there's something which, but the point I would make is that one can disrupt a meeting in numerous different ways. It's not always necessary to make a huge amount of noise. If I can focus on tonight, perhaps rather than the past. Last meeting was the 3rd meeting which had been disrupted this year. The technique and way that the disruption has happened has changed, and is not predictable, and it is left on those evenings that we've had to try and deal with them. I'm sure that the meeting has noted your comments with regard to that, but of course I would mention that, for example, the decision of the Mayor tonight to exclude, prior to that being made, I did seek out and try and consult with leaders of the groups.
Thank you. Your point is noted. Thank you.
Could I just say it's the decision tonight that I regard as wrong, last week as well, that I was speaking about tonight, but I don't require any further response.
item on the agenda this evening is the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th October 2024. Can I sign these minutes as correct record of the meeting? Item 2 is declarations of interest and items of this evening's agenda. Are there any declaration? If so, can I ask members to state clearly which item their interest relates to and the nature of the interest?
The item tonight on the NHS. I'm just letting everybody know that I work for the NHS. Thank you very much. For an NHS organization. But it won't be impacting on me personally. Thank you.
Thank you, noted. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast to the internet and it may be filmed by members of the press or public. If you are speaking at the meeting, you are deemed to be agreeing to be recorded and broadcast. The council asks that we waiver the existing council procedure rules. Can we agree to vary the order of the agenda to consider the deputations item 5 as the next item on the agenda this evening? Thank you. The next item is deputations. I have agreed to hear 2 deputations this evening. The first deputation is from George Bennett of Unison Retired Members Committee on Ethical Investment in Camden's Local Government Pension Scheme. George, you will have 3 minutes to address the council, and there will be a total of 6 minutes for questions and answers, and then 3 minutes for response from the chair of the pension committee. An officer will be timing each of the contribution and will indicate when time is up by saying time. George, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. George Bennett, formerly Secretary of the Camden branch of Unison and now Chair of the Retired Members Committee. Due to time constraints, I won't introduce the other members of this evening's deputation. When we first submitted our request to address this evening's council meeting, little did we know that a speech by the Chancellor Rachel Reeves a few nights before would spark a renewed and crucially important debate about the future of the local government pension scheme, the LGPS. While the proposals the Chancellor unveiled in her Mansion House speech lack detail, the suggested creation of just 8 LGPS megafunds across the UK poses critical questions about democratic control and oversight of investment decisions. As retired Unison members, many of whom have contributed thousands upon thousands of pounds in deferred wages towards our pensions, we believe there is already a democratic deficit in how the LGPS operates, especially given Camden's pension fund, with a value of nearly £2 billion. There is a compelling case for greater accountability and transparency around the investments made with scheme members' contributions. Now, an obvious remedy to this democratic deficit would be reserved places for elected trade union representatives with full voting rights on the relevant bodies. This just might also give real substance to what strikes us as the often empty rhetoric about environmental, social, and government investment criteria. Now, according to the publication Humanitarian Law and Policy, there are currently over 120 armed conflicts involving more than 60 states and 120 non-state actors around the globe. Last year, 2023, saw more wars, including civil conflicts such as Sudan, than any year since 1946, since the end of the Second World War. The sorry reality is that Camden's pension funds currently investing in corporations that profit from the supply of weapons that fuel such wars. And sadly, but inevitably, this leads on to Israel's ongoing assault in Gaza, now in its 14th month. Time does not permit me to comment on the escalating war in Lebanon or the intensified settler violence on the West Bank, waged with the support of key figures in the current Israeli government. The known death toll in Gaza, however, is nearly 44,000, thousands more unaccounted for. The vast majority of those killed, approximately 70% women and children, many of whom died as a result of bombs dropped by F-35 fighter jets. The lead manufacturer is the US-based corporation Lockheed Martin, with Northrop Grumman as a principal partner, while the UK-based BAE Systems supplies some 15% of component parts. Camden's portfolio appears to include investments in all three, as well as holdings valued at nearly £700,000. In conclusion, while our interests may sometimes diverge, we should have a shared interest and indeed a collective responsibility to ensure that the pension fund's investments work to promote just transitions away from the manufacture of ever more lethal weapons and those industries that threaten the long-term survival of our planet through climate change. In ensuring decent pensions for today's beneficiaries,
George.
we must also take real account of the world we bequeath to children, grandchildren, and generations further into the future. Thank you for listening. We'll now entertain questions.
Thank you. Does any member wish to ask a question to the deputy? Yes, Councillor.
Councillor Lehman, first of all, can I thank you very much for bringing this deputation forward. I would like to ask you, given the status of your group as retired members of Camden Unison, did you take the opportunity to consult more widely prior to bringing the deputation, to consult more widely with current as well as retired members? Thank you.
Any more questions? No. May I ask you, George, to reply?
In direct response to Councillor Lehman's question, we consulted all of the 11 members of our current retired members committee. We did not have the opportunity to consult amongst the retired membership more widely, although we had previously agreed at our annual general meeting to bring forward a resolution to our own National Retired Members Conference that took place in North Wales in October. We know certainly from the communications with our branch secretary, who unfortunately was barred from attending this evening's meeting as she wasn't included in the deputation, that there is very substantial support amongst ordinary Camden Unison members who are currently contributing to the fund for a much greater voice in how investment decisions are made. And to be frank, there is particular concern about investments that are fueling the arms trade and ultimately wars such as the one being waged in Gaza, but also, for that matter, Sudan, where weapons manufactured in this country have been funneled through the United Arab Emirates to one side in that horrific, catastrophic conflict. So I think I can say with some confidence that there is widespread concern amongst ordinary Unison members, and if the council were to conduct an unbiased survey, I think they would find that, in fact, members want to say in how their contributions are invested and what provides for our pensions in retirement.
Thank you, George. I would like now invite Councillor Madlani, Chair of the Pension Committee, to respond to the deputation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the deputies for coming today. George, it's definitely nice to hear your booming voice back in the council chamber after retirement. As someone who's personally made a number of trips to Palestine and Israel, this is an issue that I'm deeply affected by personally, and it's deeply distressing to see from all sides. Whether it's destruction and loss of life in Gaza or sympathy for families of the hostages, it's not a good situation all round. That being said, I'm also delighted to have a deputation on pensions and engagement on a topic that I am deeply personally passionate about as well. And I think it's really important that we do engage on this. And the Mansion House speech, as you alluded to, George, finally gave LGPS pensions the limelight they deserve. I've had the privilege of being the Pensions Committee Chair for 10 years now, with one of which we've won awards for our approach to environmental, social and governance issues. One of my first acts was actually to invite GMB and Unison reps to take their places on the committee, so we actively engage and talk to our current union members. 2 years ago, London's pension leaders, London's council leaders, elected me to be the shareholder chair of the London CIV, one of the 8 super pools you talked about. similarly, one of my first acts was to ensure that we had a union member, John Gray, who I believe is a leading light in Unison, London, as a member of the committee on shareholder rights, so that we have union voices heard at the very top of this. Furthermore, my key work has been on responsible investment agenda, and also ensuring value for money, because I want to make sure all of you as retired members get your pensions in full entirely. As a small fund, we have limited ability to engage in all topics, and as a committee, every 3 to 4 years when we do our triennial evaluations, we look at what are the key issues. And the key issues that Camden had previously identified in this cycle were climate action, gender equality and decent working jobs, aligning with the Sustainable Development Goals set at the UN level. That being said, I know obviously with the increasing number of conflicts, and George, I have a lot of sympathy for your points about rising conflict across the world, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's conflict in Yemen. There are a number of ongoing conflicts, and it's something we as a committee will want to look at more actively in the coming cycle. My vice chair, who is conveniently sat to my left in a Tribally Peter style, is also in the executive lab, which is one of the leading bodies that is engaged on a number of these issues with companies. And Heather kindly engages directly with a number of companies on a number of issues that you will care about, workers' rights included. Just to respond directly to some of the points in the written deputation, transparency about transparency, you call for an audit. Our pensions committee work is reported on every quarter. I can refer you to the Camden website. Everything is published in full detail. My committee know I take governance very seriously, and we publish as much in the public domain of everything we can publish, some minor commercials aside, and my committee members will know we often take asset management tasks. If I may, just 20 seconds to just quickly sum up. That said, there are a number of things the committee are taking forward, and I thank the helpful engagement of the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, who have actively met with us and discussed some of these bits. We're continuing to monitor the latest legal advice on any specific prohibitions in UK regulations. We've worked with LAP and the London Civ, so as shareholder chair, we took a 45-minute item on this around what should human rights policies be at the Civ level to make sure we're really best in class on this. And then furthermore, when we do our next valuation round, where we look at our core investment beliefs again, we will look at peace and justice as a core investment belief, but that will happen next year. So thank you.
Thank you for attending and giving your deputation. Could you please now leave the chamber? The second deputation is from Helena Aksanjava, Palestine Solidarity Campaign, and relates to community cohesion in Camden and the situation in Gaza. Once we have heard from Helena, there will be a total of 6 minutes for questions and answers, then 3 minutes for a response from the leader of the council. Helena, you have 3 minutes to address the council. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask, is Camden a progressive council? Does it uphold international law? In 1983, supported by Frank Dobson, Camden acted radically in their opposition to the apartheid government of South Africa. They were on the right side of history then. The people of Camden, who you represent, would like you to stop investing in arms companies and to make sure that all your investments are ethical. Every day we wake up to a new massacre in Gaza. We hear the screams of people when the Israeli army bombs and burns men, women and children. How has this become normalised? A BBC report said 75% of deaths in Gaza are women and children. And children who are aged 5 to 9 are the largest group of the dead. 15,000 children have been slaughtered, and that is before we start counting the people under the rubble. I keep thinking I've seen the worst. Hind Rajab, 5, alone in a car surrounded by her dead relatives begging for help. She died too, in a car that was shot with 300 bullets. Shaban al-Zalu, 19 years old, burnt alive, attached to a drip in a hospital bed. And he was there, injured, and his family had been displaced 50 times. Israelis sending aid to a school in northern Gaza and then bombing it when people come to pick up the aid. Surgeon Professor Mahmoud described to a parliamentary committee how children were being deliberately targeted by drones. He saw children with sniper injuries to their heads. Every time I think I've seen the worst, something else happens. These are not acts of war, these are war crimes. Israel is committing war crime after war crime. Every single university in Gaza has been destroyed. 75% of schools have been destroyed. Every single hospital has been attacked. Doctors have been found dead in mass graves with their hands zip-tied behind their backs. Others have been arrested and tortured. The people of Camden are asking you, please, to be radical again, to condemn Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people, and to call for an immediate ceasefire. Please stand on the right side of history, because history will remember this. It is a time, the worst time that I have seen in my life. And the whole world is watching. That's my deputation, thank you.
Does any member wish to ask a question to the deputy? Councillor.
More of a statement than a question, Madam Mayor, if you don't mind. As someone who comes from war, having witnessed first-hand destruction, devastation, and mindless violence, I feel that I can say that I know what the Palestinian people in Gaza have been experiencing for the past 13 months. There are really no words to describe the shocking inhumanity that was unleashed by Hamas on people working in kibbutz and going to music festivals and then taking hostages, many of them remaining captive for more than a year. More than 1,300 Israelis have lost their lives, civilians going about their day, dealing with life, or young people enjoying themselves at a music festival. And then we have the unspeakable horror unleashed by the Israeli defense force on Gaza, killing 43,000 people and counting, destroying everything in sight. Homes, schools, hospitals, mosques, you name it. They've destroyed it. In the process, displacing millions of Palestinians, killing tens of thousands of children and women by targeting civilian infrastructure. We now have a humanitarian crisis, famine, starvation, disease, little medical and food gets through, unimaginable war crimes being committed against the Palestinian people. Israeli and Hamas leaders, whatever is left of them, have progressed ones after them. Israeli politicians are openly calling for the depopulation of Gaza and beginning a new settlement program. Our Labour government has suspended many export licenses for defensive equipment to Israel, and the ICJ continues to review genocide claims brought by South Africa against Israel. Ceasefire calls have proved to be useless, especially against the backdrop of an Israeli government on the verge of collapsing if the war effort stops. We all want a ceasefire, unless you're, of course, Marco Rubio, President-elect Donald Trump's new Secretary of State, which doesn't bode well for the Palestinian people. In fact, a lot of Trump's people who are proposed to be in strategic government roles have no issue with taking greater chunks out of the West Bank and Gaza and handing this over to Israel. This makes me believe that the future is very, very bleak for the Palestinian people, and that it is unlikely that we will be seeing a cessation of hostilities and a Palestinian state emerging from this current hell. We will end up just continuing the ritual humiliation, oppression, and subjugation of the Palestinian people, which will inevitably lead to more violence. I, of course, want this to stop. I don't want to see innocent civilians, Israeli, Palestinian, killed and lives destroyed. I have experienced this firsthand. War is pure hell. The deputation accuses us of refusing to discuss the situation in Gaza. I know that our former leader, Georgia Gould, put out statements and gave a statement in this chamber calling for a ceasefire and did everything possible to support communities across the borough. I spoke to her at length on several occasions, about this, and she has, and she did respond. And I'm sure Richard will respond this evening as well. I know councillors across the chamber have been out in their communities listening and responding, and I think we should consider that with respect to your deputation. Thank you.
Any other questions? Does the deputy wish to briefly respond to the question? We didn't have any question, but the comment made by Councillor Ollard.
I don't think there was really a question there, but I would really thank the council very much if they would discuss this and have a vote on the ceasefire. I think that if you did that, it would lead to much better community cohesion. As we have seen, at the moment the council has locked the chamber because people are feeling very angry and upset that this has not been taken on board by Camden Council. So we would be very grateful if you did and follow the lead of so many great councils across the land.
Thank you, Helen. I would now like to invite the leader of the council to respond to the deputation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will focus my response on the deputation's stated inquiry regarding the council's role in cohesion. The point on pension divestment was addressed in response to the previous deputation. People of all faiths have been impacted by the conflict in the Middle East. We had that from the deputation and from Councillor Ollard as well, and it has been addressed by previous leader George Gould. And that pain is felt across Camden, and for some very directly and very personally. We've also seen worrying increases in the number of incidents of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia reported over the last year. Our priority as a council is to ensure that our communities remain safe, and we recognise that cohesion between and across communities is an important part of people both feeling and being safe. We've invested strongly in our volunteering community sector as the bedrock of cohesion. We've invested in services, staff and support to enable people to participate and as fully as possible as citizens of this borough. We've worked with our faith communities so that we can learn from their insights and so that we can work together on outreach and engagement, particularly on issues of belonging, tolerance and cohesion. We have worked quickly to respond to the cohesion concerns of a variety of faith leaders over the last year. You, Madam Mayor, and the co-chairs of our Faith Forum have led a number of cross-faith events to promote cohesion and to make clear the Council's position on tolerance and dialogue. And just last week, you and I, Madam Mayor, were at an interfaith history walk. We've also increased the number of reassurance and engagement patrols conducted by our community safety officers, with a particular focus on mosques and synagogues. And between October last year and August this year, more than 1,500 reassurance patrols have been conducted. Reassurance calls and visits have been undertaken, including by me and fellow councillors, to synagogues and to mosques, to understand the impact of the terrible global events on our communities, and to log and be able to respond to the issues and concerns raised. Regular communications have gone out by to the voluntary sector and all our faith partners, including sharing of statements, letters of reassurance and updates via a number of special bulletins. And based on conversations with Jewish and Muslim communities, we have increased patrols to places of worship in response. We've made resources available to schools and youth providers in terms of how to support young people and signpost services. I take a bit of indulgence here. Feedback from all our engagement and conversations has fed into the development of hate crime champions, who will be organisations supporting a continued increase in reporting of incidents and building trust and support into the system. In June this year, Camden was awarded full accreditation as a borough sanctuary. demonstrating our commitment to helping all refugees living in or transient in the borough to start rebuilding their lives and to take positive decisions about their own future. We will continue to take the lead from our communities who have shown us that they want Camden to continue to be a welcoming, tolerant place where people from all faiths and none come to build better lives. And it's the message I've given out when I've visited mosques, silent secret hotels and synagogues, is that no matter who you are, what your roots are, what your faith is, everyone in Camden is welcome and everyone is legitimate. We will continue to listen to our citizens, our partners and our faith leaders to understand the role the Council can play as a civic voice and convener in our communities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Simon, I just want to know what is it? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for attending and giving your deputation. Could you please now leave the chamber? We will now return to item 3 on the agenda. Item 3 is an announcement. We recently received a very sad news of passing of the former councillor Hamish McGibbon, who served on the council from 1966 to 1968 as a councillor in Gospel Oak. I will now invite Councillor Patricia Callahan to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hamish McGibbon was a dedicated public servant and brought his commitment to social justice and education to his role as a Labour councillor on Camden Council in Gospel Oak. He was the governor of a number of schools and colleges, and in every aspect of his life he worked hard to improve the community. Growing up in Hampstead and with his parents, he took an active part in community life. He attended Trinity College, Cambridge,